Hello, everyone. Welcome to Oracle Database World. Today, in this session, we are going to talk about database upgrade best practice, and we're going to show you what are the keys for a successful database upgrade. So here with me, I have Mike Dietrich, Danielle Hanson, and my name is Rodrigo George. We are product managers of Oracle Database Upgrade, Migration, Patching, and Utilities team within Oracle. Okay, so here you have our websites, our social media. Feel free to follow us or to bookmark our websites. We keep posting a lot of technical stuff, especially, of course, about Oracle database upgrades, migrations, and patching. So before you start your Oracle database upgrade, you need to be prepared for it. And how do you start with the preparation phase? First, choosing the target release. And right now, the target release that we recommend you to go for any Oracle database upgrade is the 19C. Why? Because 19C is the currently only long-term support release we have in Oracle. Okay, so a long-term support release means that we are giving 5 years of premier support plus 2 years of extended support. At least 2 years, can be even more, but right now the 19C, the support will only end by April 2027. So the next long-term support release will be the 23C, meaning that it, of course, 23C will be released in 2023. So you have 4 years from 2023 until April 2027 to do your migration from 19C to 23C. So it's a good time for doing an upgrade, okay? And another reason why you shouldn't go to any other versions, if you check this lifetime support policy must know, you will see that all the previous releases, the support life is ending very soon or already ended. Like 18C, where the latest CPU cycle for 18C was in April this year, April 2021. So no more patches for 18C, and 11.204, 12.102, and 12.201, it's ending very soon. So 19C, as you can see here, again, it's going until April 2027. And Oracle 21C, which we released about 2 months back, it's an innovation release, not a long-term support release, meaning we will only have 2 years of premier support on it. So only go with 21C if you want to play with new features on your lab environments or dev or test, never in production environments, okay? So after you deploy your base release for 19C, it's time to apply the latest RU on top of it. Always go with the latest RU. So I will talk about the latest RU and also this MOS node, this 555.1 MOS node, which is very important on the next slides. So first about the RU, you go to this download assistant MOS node where you can select Oracle database update bullet, and then it will open options of all the versions that has RUs. So then you select 19C and you go to the top of the list. And right now, the currently latest RU for 19C is 19.13. So you click on it, you download the latest RU, and that's it. Now you have the long-term support release with the latest RU applied for your target system. But it's not only that. Another thing that's very important and a lot of customers forget to do is checking this 555.1 MOS node. If you don't have it already among your favorite MOS nodes, bookmark it, because in this MOS node, what we give you is the recommended and critical one-off patches that we recommend you to apply on top of a given RU. So if you open this My Oracle support node and click on 19.13, you will see all the critical one-off patches that we recommend you to apply and that might be included only in the next RUs, okay? So after now you have the base release with the latest RU and also with the one-offs that we recommend applied, it's time to learn about the new release. And learning about new release doesn't mean learning about new features. It also means learning about what was deprecated and dissupported, because you might be using those deprecated and dissupported features in your currently release. So you need to check them before upgrade. So here is just a sample list of some of them. DBMS job in 19C, DBMS job is actually deprecated since 12.2. And in 19C, when you upgrade your database, the jobs are converted to scheduler. However, the DBMS job package is still there, but when you call it, it will actually transform the commands under DBMS scheduler commands. So the behavior is totally different. Okay. There are also some features that are deprecated, like non-CDB architecture. 19C is the latest release to support non-CDB architecture. And also some parameters like SQLnet encryption wallet location parameter. This is a parameter from SQLnet.aura file, and that we decide to move this inside the database. So now it's wallet root parameter within the Oracle database. Okay, so you might also want to change this in case you use encrypted table space in your database. There are also some supported features like multimedia and streams. If you use Oracle Streams, you should be considering now moving to Oracle Golden Gate, which support much more features. And Oracle Multimedia, even though it's still on the 19C, if you try to use it, the component is there, but it will throw you an error. And the only reason we'll still keep the component there is because there are some other features like Oracle Locate that leverages on Oracle Multimedia. And Oracle Locate, by the way, is still supported and is still working, okay? So as I said, database 19C will be the final release supporting non-CDB. When we introduced the multi-tenant architecture 7 to 8 years back, we decided that's the way we would focus in our new releases. And now in 19C, we already think that it's already pretty mature, it's stable, and it's time to support the non-CDB architecture. So if you're still not using this, consider doing so. And remember that in 19C, you can have up to 3 user PDBs without requiring any extra license, okay? Another very important thing is to test and practice not only the upgrade, because I've seen so many customers testing the upgrade multiple times before actually doing this in production. But you should also test your fallback strategy and your downgrade strategy. So fallback is if you have any problem in the middle of the upgrade and you want to return to the point you were before starting the upgrade. While downgrade is if you want to reverse the upgrade after your go live. So after your production start in your new environment, your new upgrade environment, and you decide to go back to the previous release, you need to have a downgrade runbook prepared to do so. And you can play with it in our hands-on labs, in Oracle Live Labs, okay? So you should also avoid plan regression after the upgrade. And even though this is after upgrade, you must be prepared before the upgrade for this. And one feature that we recommend you to use to be prepared is SQL plan management. With SQL plan management, you can get all the SQL queries you have in your system before upgrading and forcing a query plan to run on those SQLs. So after you get your system upgraded, you won't have any plan regression because all the SQLs will have the same plan as before. So SQL plan management is a way to force a SQL plan so you don't have any regression, any unexpected behavior in the upgraded system, okay? So Oracle also offers you some performance stability prescription. I won't go through all of them. There are many. You can use SQL plan management, as I said, SQL tuning advisor, SQL patch, or even database replay, which is part of real application testing to simulate your production workload in a non-prod system and compare the performance. So I won't go through all of them, but just keep in mind that Oracle offers all the kind of stuff to guarantee that you won't have any performance issue after you upgrade your database. So statistics is also something very important to take before upgrading in your system. And the reason is because upgrading tests are very dictionary intensive tests. So you should take dictionary and fit set objects stats before running the upgrade in your database, okay? If you go with AutoUpgrade tool, which is our recommendation, you must take it at least 7 days in advance or the tool will take it for you. And as you can see in this graph, if you collect the stats before running AutoUpgrade, you can save. We saved here in this example 12 minutes for 52 PDBs upgrade, okay? Now that we are prepared, let's go with the next step, that's the upgrade. And now I will hand over to Daniel.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Let's go ahead and upgrade. The very first recommendation that I can give you is that you should always use AutoUpgrade to upgrade your database. We have put so much new functionality into AutoUpgrade that you are really missing out if you're using any of the alternate methods. You can use AutoUpgrade to upgrade a single database or multiple databases in just one command, which really enables you to do end-to-end automation with AutoUpgrade. Let me show you how easily you can upgrade a database in this little demo. I have my config file, it's just a simple text file, which has information about the source and target Oracle home. And then I need to specify the SID of the database that I want to upgrade. Now I start AutoUpgrade in Analyze mode. I specify the location of my config file and I use mode Analyze. This will connect to the database to see whether or not that specific database is ready to be upgraded. Any critical errors will be reported and the upgrade cannot proceed. I can use the lsj command to see how far the analysis is progressing. Currently, 1 out of 79 checks is remaining. Once the analysis completes, we can investigate to log files to get more details about the analysis. We have log and HTML files, which are easy for humans to read, but we also have XML and JSON file that you can use if you want to integrate AutoUpgrade with other tools. If you look in one of the log files, you can see that, for instance, there's a check about dictionary stats, but don't worry because AutoUpgrade have a fix-up available, meaning it can fix it for you. You don't have to worry. So let's go ahead and upgrade the database, and we'll use deploy mode for that. Here, I'm speeding things up a little so we don't have to sit and wait for the database upgrade to progress. We can see that AutoUpgrade is now fixing things in the database. Now it's draining, meaning it restarts the database in upgrade mode. And now the actual database upgrade has been started and it is currently at 61%. If you want even more details, you can use the status command. And here you can see timings of each of the phases. You can see where all the log files are stored. And you can get information about each database that is currently being upgraded. After a while, the job completes, meaning that the database has been upgraded and all the post-upgrade task has been executed as well. So I reset the environment and connect to the database. When I query $instance, you can see that the database has now been upgraded to 19C. So that was actually quite easy. It only took 2 commands, an analyze and a deploy, to do the entire database upgrade, including all the pre-upgrade and post-upgrade checks. You should always get the latest version of AutoUpgrade from my Oracle support. Even though you can find a recent version of AutoUpgrade in your RDBMS admin folder, you should always go to my Oracle support to get the latest version. We really push out changes so fast that even though you have a recent release update, it might be that we have already created a new version that you can get from my Oracle support. You can use the version option on the command line to see which version of AutoUpgrade that you're currently using. If you scroll a little down, you can also see that you can use this version of AutoUpgrade. This is AutoUpgrade version 21.2. You can use this version to upgrade not only to database 21, but also to database 19C, 18, and 12.2. AutoUpgrade is fully backwards compatible. If you want your database upgrade to run as fast as possible, the best recommendation I can give you is that you should get rid of those components in the database that you are not using. Getting rid of components is by far the best way to optimize the database upgrade. You can add more CPU or more memory, or you can have a faster disk system, but it really won't give you the same benefit as removing unused components. We did a benchmark of the same database on the same hardware. We did 2 upgrades, but in the second upgrade, we removed some of the components. And as you can see here, just by removing a few components from the database, it went from upgrade in 52 minutes to upgrading in 30 minutes. That's a pretty good optimization, only by removing components. You should think about your fallback plans. My recommendation is that you use guaranteed restore points and flashback database as your primary fallback option. Flashback database is reliable and it is super fast. It is the best way and the fastest way to flashback or to fallback a database upgrade. When you're using AutoUpgrade, you don't have to worry. It's built into the tool. AutoUpgrade will automatically set a guaranteed restore point, and you can flashback the database with AutoUpgrade as well. If you're on Standard Edition, you have to use another method because you're not allowed to use flashback database. In that case, I would recommend that you look into partial offline backup. Something to be aware of with flashback database. You cannot use it after go live. Once users have been allowed to connect to the database and enter new data into the database, you cannot do a flashback database because that would mean data loss. If you need to fall back after go live, you have two options. Either use data pump or a database downgrade. Either method you choose, be sure to test it before you do the production upgrade. Also, you should think about when you want to raise the compatible parameter. Our recommendation is that you do it 7 to 10 days, it could be the following weekend, after the upgrade. This will give you enough time to see whether there are some critical issues that could cause you to start a database downgrade. Because as soon as you change the compatible parameter, you can no longer do flashback database or do a database downgrade. So only raise the compatible parameter when you're sure that you don't want to fall back. Also, when you change the compatible, you should always set it to the default of the release that you're upgrading to. When you're going to Oracle Database 19c, the value should be 19.00. It doesn't matter whether you're upgrading to 19.13 or 19.12. Always set it to the default, being 19.00. If you don't follow my recommendation, you won't break anything. But if you have multi-tenant databases, if you have container databases, it will make your life so much easier if you have a uniform compatible setting in your entire environment. And be sure only to change the compatible parameter when you're upgrading. You don't have to change it when you're just patching. If you cannot take the additional downtime it requires to change the compatible parameter after the upgrade, in the following weekend, for instance, you have to change compatible immediately after the upgrade. But be aware, if you do that, you cannot do flashback database and you cannot do a database downgrade. But in some situations, additional downtime is simply not acceptable. And in that case, you can use AutoUpgrade to change the compatible parameter immediately after a successful upgrade, simply by specifying these two parameters in your config file. Also, when you upgrade to Database 19c, you should get the benefit of the multi-tenant architecture. In Oracle Database 19c, we allow you to create up to 3 user PDBs without having the multi-tenant license. So it's really a good way to get used to the new multi-tenant architecture in 19c, start creating some PDBs and get used to it. If you want to convert your non-CDB database into a PDB as part of the upgrade, you can do that as well with AutoUpgrade by just specifying the target CDB parameter, which should refer to the CDB into which you want to plug in the non-CDB database. Over to Mike for some final touches on the upgrade.
Thank you, Daniel. Now, let us take care on post-upgrade, after the upgrade. What's important here? First of all, statistics. Keep your optimizer statistics. When you upgrade, there's no reason to regather stats. And even if you would regather, keep in mind, it will refresh stale and missing stats, but it won't change your existing statistics unless they are marked as stale. In order to do so, you would need to wipe out all statistics. And keep in mind that your maintenance window may be limited, so just recreate all stats. One important exception here, if you use histograms and you come from 11.204, there was a limitation in number of buckets, and they are more and more efficient histogram types available after 11.2. So in this case, you may consider wiping out the entire stats on these tables and regathering them from scratch with histograms again. The same rule applies to system statistics. There is no reason to touch or change system statistics. Keep them as they are. By default, the database has already system stats in aux stats dollar, and unless you never touch that, don't do it. Leave them as they are. It may be different. You get a brand new Exadata and you have a new deployment. You start from scratch with a new system. Then feel free on a workload to gather Exadata stats. That's fine. But for all other cases, leave system statistics as they are, because changing them may introduce significant change. The database may force full table scans much more than before, and you may see a lot of plant changes then. And this is something you typically don't want when you upgrade your databases. Different thing here with fixed object stats. Regather them, but not directly after the upgrade. Wait for 1, 2, 3 days until you have a real workload on the database and the X dollar structures have been populated, like X dollar BH for the buffer cache. It will take a while until it gets filled up and you will get significant and correct statistics. So wait a few days, maybe 24 hours, 3-4 days, and then you regather fixed object statistics. That's the right time when you have a workload on your database. And this brings me to parameters. So ideally, you have removed old, outdated parameters, underscores, and events, and especially those where nobody can tell you why they are in the ESP file before you started your upgrade testing. But if you haven't done so, now it's time. Now it's time, your final chance to remove outdated parameters. The less parameters you have, the easier it is to maintain for yourself, and the easier it is also for us, in case you see an issue later on, to reproduce anything. So less parameters is pretty cool, and the less you have, the better it is. Now we would like to give you a few recommendations here. And the first one is very well known: optimizer features enable. You all know this parameter. Don't touch it. I don't want to see that in your SP file, unless there's a deep reason for that. Don't accept when you get this as an answer to a service request for an issue you have seen that you should easily set optimizer features enable to 12.102 and all is gone. Because that would mean the one issue you had is fixed, but you turn off 50 or 80 cool features which make your database run faster by reparameterizing the optimizer now. And you still would use current 19C optimizer code. So we don't like this parameter. We don't want to see it in your SP file. If there is something going wrong, there's always a special underscore to treat that. The optimizer has, I don't know, I have to make up a number, 160 underscores or something like that. So we can find it out, but don't touch this. And this parameter, keep that in mind, is fully independent of compatible. Cursor obsolete threshold, the first underscore we would like to recommend, because there was a significant change with 12.2.1 from default before 1024 to 8192. And unfortunately, this default leads to a lot of issues. The new one, concurrency issues, mutex, bad performance. Our recommendation is you revert it from 12.2.01 until 21C, and it may change in a later release to the old default. You revert it to the 11.2 or 12.1 setting, which is 1024. And never forget to comment this in your SP file when you make this change, because then later you know why somebody had put that parameter in here. Next underscore we would definitely want you to set is underscore SQL Plan Directive Management Control. You may remember from the 12.1 days the SQL Plan directives, and some things didn't work so well with SQL Plan directives. This is why in 19C they are disabled by default. But in the background, there will be still SQL Plan directives collected. They won't be used, but they will be collected, eating up some space in your sysaux table space for no reason. So please, from 12.2.01 onwards, disable SQL Plan Directive Management Control with the value 0 in your SP file, and also mark the Moss node where you can find that information so you can put pieces together later on. Then a very old parameter, and I'm not happy to tell you this here, but you should definitely turn off deferred segment creation, which means you set it to false. The parameter came in, I think to remember, in the 11.2 days. The idea is you create an empty object, a table or an index. There's no row inserted and no space is wasted. This got introduced for applications which create like thousands of tables. And unless you use all application modules, a lot of these tables will waste a lot of space, but will never have any use. So the idea was nice. But unfortunately, over time, we have seen a ton of issues with that. It started with data pump having issues in the old days, or later on, we saw here and there corruptions, unfortunately, silent corruptions. So please turn this off, deferred segment creation false, especially since when you do the first insert, as we marked here in red, you will see a performance penalty. So the correct setting in your SP file will be deferred segment creation false. Don't forget, write Moss node, and you can put the pieces together later on when somebody asks you, why did we turn that off? And who was that? You can put your name in here as well. I do this by myself. So it's time to wrap up. Let me wrap up. Your key to successful database upgrades is you start with software. As download from eDelivery or Oracle.com, you get 19.3.0. It has no patch applied yet. Then you take the newest release update. This may be 19.12 or 19.13 by the time we watch this here together. You have over 5,000 fixes in 19.12 on top of 19.3. So you must apply that. And then, as we explained before, you take the most recent AutoUpgrade, always the most recent one, because due to code freezes, the version you get in this Moss node is much newer than the one you have on disk, guaranteed. And we have such agile developers. We fix things so quickly. You need the most recent one. And until then, all is fine with upgrade. No rocket science, easy, simple, straightforward. Put a lot of emphasis on performance stability, step 4. Use SQL Plan Management. Use the SQL Tuning Advisor. Use, if you have a license for it, real application testing. If not, you may use the cloud to evaluate it. And this brings me to our final slide here. Please, if you need more information, because 30 minutes are really, really short, you go to our recordings. We have right now 17 hours of recorded deep technical content, no marketing done, available on our blogs. On our blogs, mine, Daniel's, Rodrigo's, you find a lot of information about upgrade, migrations, patching, going into the cloud, being on-prem, multi-tenant, and much, much more. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we have, I don't know how many videos we have on YouTube, but it's a ton of content, and we created playlists. So we would like to thank you here. Thanks for your attention, and we hope that you have a successful upgrade to 19C. Thank you and goodbye.